So this is just a general WoW discussion. It can be on anything. Great, you can hear me. Excellent. It can be on anything you like. But a couple of things I try and steer clear of. One is spoilers. So obviously I do stream, or the last couple of weeks I've been streaming from the PTR. So I've been sort of covering spoilers there. And I try and steer a little bit clear of the old Retribution Paladin. Oh, hey, a Bucknut. Try and steer clear of the old Retribution Paladin stuff. Obviously probably can't avoid a little bit of it this week. But fear not, because as well as, you know, we had the final boss thing this weekend, we've also got my normal live Retribution Paladin Q&A this coming Saturday as well. So we'll be able to go over sort of anything there. I suppose a lot of the things this week would be on, I don't know, I suppose Tomb of Sargeras, really. The bit of a debacle there with, well, with the bosses. I mean, Avatar has, you know, coming for some criticism. Kil'jaeden is now coming in for some criticism. Who is this? I'm not actually old enough to be a dad. If that 87 is there, because that's when you were born. Excuse me, yeah. So, yeah, apparently we've got 3 guilds now on Kil'jaeden. One of which I was trying to find the video, and I couldn't find it to actually show it on here. Released some video of the first, like, minute of the fight, when they were actually last in the first minute of the fight. But, apparently it's well beyond brutal, shall we say. So I think Blizzard are coming for a little bit of stick at the moment for the fact that the fights have been brought out and they're not really ready. Whether they just haven't had enough external testing, whether it's not enough internal testing, whether they just didn't have enough time with the schedule they were given. I was talking about this before. You do usually get a few comments like this whenever I talk about this, because it sometimes is a topic. Hi, Nate. You do usually get a few people who will say, oh, boo-hoo, who cares about the very top guilds? I don't think it's... A lot of people do care about the very top guilds because we like watching it. I mean, I'm sort of a little bit hands-off with watching the world race, but it is of interest, of course. Plus the fact that ultimately, they, you know, if a boss isn't even brilliantly tuned by the time we get to it, I mean, that's sort of okay. You put up with it as long as it's killable. But with the very top guilds, you've got to appreciate the massive amount of time and effort they put in. So, yeah, I do think it's a little bit shabby, even in Rost. So, the other thing I was trying to do, and it's not quite ready, it's nearly ready, is to go, if anyone had any sort of questions around, because I know people have been asking about Mythic bosses. Sorry, I read. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to mute myself a minute so you don't have to listen to this. 1 second. Okay, hopefully you didn't have to hear any of that. Yeah, one thing people have asked. Obviously, I've been sort of trying to work through at the moment sort of heroics advice and guidance, because that'll apply to far more people. But then I will get on with the Mythic stuff next week when I'm off again. What do I think of the heroic Kil'jaeden compared to Gul'dan? I was not impressed with Kil'jaeden at all. I thought it was far too basic a fight. In complete contrast with the Mythic one. Although the Mythic one is just, I think, tuned too highly. I'm not sure. For what people are sort of saying is it's just tuned too highly. It doesn't seem... Well, I mean, we don't know what the if and what the extra phase would be. But yeah, I mean, we got to heroic Kil'jaeden. I mean, what have you got ultimately? You've got the following mechanics. Don't stand in front of the boss, okay? You've got when fire appears, go and soak it. And this is actually, you know, that's the only mechanic that really stuffs over raids generally. Because it's one of those classic tactics, which is good design, I think, where people don't want to because they have to take DPS off. Now, a lot of those fire things actually spawn when you can't attack Kil'jaeden anyway, so then there's no problem going to do it. But sometimes they spawn while he's active and you can DPS. And we kill Kil'jaeden on hero really quickly because, and I was surprised about this myself, not everyone, but most people were really up for the soaking. They were forgetting DPS completely, knew exactly what to do, went out and soaked. Recently, we've actually struggled to kill Kil'jaeden on hero. We have done after a few pulls, of course. but you know, it's been harder than it should have been because people, once you've killed it a few times, are in the mode of, oh, it's on farm now, I'm going to try and get a rank. Yeah, well, you throw them out whenever you like, Streaky. So, yeah, the Armageddon, all you have to do is, whoever intends to soak the big one with an immunity, says my bubble, just needs to call it out before it happens. It's like, if someone says, I'll take the next big one, then that's it. The next big one has been taken. If no one says it and it's about to spawn, you know, raid leader can sort of say, who's taking the next big one? Easy. And then the other ones, just make sure you spread around the room. And for most of the fight, when it's happening, you can't touch Kil'jaeden anyway. So you might as well naturally spread out across the room. The other one is the... I think Ret will get tuned before 7.3, yeah. I just don't know when or how. The orbs that spawn, you just have to get close to them. There's the beam to stand in. Just don't stand on someone. You don't even need the whole raid in it. You just need to... The biggest danger of that one is not actually not soaking it enough. The biggest danger is having people too stacked and then they take a load of splash damage. And it's... I mean, what else is there? There's the pylon. The pylons are the most dangerous thing. Because, I mean, I was killed by that this week because the tanks didn't move it out of the way. Now, yes, I could have moved myself and done no DPS, but, you know, bugger that. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the only one where you've got to keep a bit of an eye out. The Illidan phase is straightforward. Everything's straightforward about it. You know, and I can understand if you can't quite meet a DPS check because the gear's not quite good enough in your raid group. That will obviously apply some difficulty to it. But the actual mechanics are not... For an end boss, I mean, if it was, you know, one of the last bosses, you would go, okay, this is all right. But for the end boss, you know, whereas Gul'dan Heroic had several abilities that worked together to make them the whole thing more... It's not, each individual mechanic was not necessarily that difficult, but because they operated at the same time, it made it more difficult. The tier 21 set bonuses, the only ones I know are for Ret, and they're just Christmas cracker ones. They've just put those in as placeholders. They're not what we're going to get. You can just tell by what they are. We're not going to get those because the 2 set just says here have some stats. The 4 set just says have some more of those same stats. You never get it. Even when you have an unimaginative one, it's never that bad. So they're just put in because they've thought of some set bonuses, but they didn't want to just put some set bonuses on the PTR and not others. Yeah, I mean, I have 4 set, but I don't have my ideal 4 set. I'm still waiting for the gloves. I still want to get a pair of gloves. Harjatan is not playing ball. I think it drops off Harjatan. So at the moment, I'm using the tier 21 helm. Tier 20 helm, which I'm not at all keen on. Well, they certainly had more time to get Gul'dan right because Nighthold came out in the new year, but was being tested the previous summer and externally tested as well. Because everything up to and including Nighthold, well, no, not everything, sorry. Emerald Nightmare and Nighthold were tested during the sort of alpha beta period. That was not the case. It wasn't actually the case for Trial of Valor, to be fair. Actually, we didn't even know that was happening. They kept that under up their sleeve. But Tomb of Sargeras, yeah, only had a bit of PTR testing. But and the last boss, to be fair, the last boss, you always do run the risk, Blizzard, of it not being quite right. Because they don't let people properly test it because they like to have surprises. So it's only ever internally tested. Even though, of course, some of the internal testers will be very, very good players themselves. But they can't possibly find all the things that multiple of the top players in the world will find. You know, they don't have as big a pool of top players as, say, the player base. So it's always going to be a bit tricky. I mean, I do understand why they don't want to externally test the last boss. But there's been cock-ups on the other bosses, which is a bit... I mean, one thing Bay was talking about, which is quite correct as well, because one of the things has been about the soaking. They've stopped us soaking things. But 8 out of the 9 bosses have a soak mechanic. So Goroth, on Mythic at any rate, Goroth, you've got those infernal things to soak, so you don't get an infernal spawning. Excuse me. Harjatan, you've got his, I always forget the name of the ability, but his cleave thing that you have to turn onto the raid. There's nothing on Demonic Inquisition. It's the only fight where there is no soak mechanic. Mistress, you've got your Hydra Shot. What's next? Sisters, you've got your corporeal shot. What's the name of it? The host, desolate host. You've got the sundering doom and doom sundering to soak. You've also got soulbound, which is a sort of come together thing. It's not quite soak though. Then you've got maiden, where you have to soak the fell and light hammer thing. And you've got, I'm just going on, avatar, you've got your touch of Sargeras to soak. And you've also got the things in the second phase as well, the circles around players. And then Kil'jaeden, you've got your Armageddon Rain, as well as the beam. So there's soaks everywhere. And the thing is, it's not like the first tier where there's been soaks and they've just gone mad. There's been soaks for years. They've had soak mechanics. And for years, when it happens on someone who can solo soak it, like immune it or something, that's what they do. So it's not even like Blizzard can sort of say, oh, there's no, you know, oh, we didn't expect people to solo soak it. Yes, you did. That's what people just generally do, wasn't it? They're not brand new mechanics. None of these soak mechanics are like brand new. Word of Glory. Yeah, well, the thing is, it's what it's compared to. Justicar's Vengeance is a very expensive heal. Because you're not going to realistically be able to use it on a stun thing. And, hi. What else have we got? Eye for an eye, there isn't that much physical damage. Where there is a fight with physical damage, it can be good. But there isn't that much. So, and Word of Glory can heal yourself and others. It is costly as well, but at least it can be used for others as well. But Word of Glory, I would use it as a heal on yourself, primarily, if you think you're going to die. It's not always worth the DPS loss, but it just does have the added bonus that maybe it could be useful on others as well. Hammer of Wrath or Final Verdict? What do you mean? We can't have Hammer of Wrath. It's gone. The only Hammer of Wrath we've got now is the Discord. But anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, I'm trying to keep it... Bring back... Well, we've got Final Verdict, sort of. Higher. But we'll try and keep it sort of away from, as I say, Ret type talk as much. Because that's this Saturday, and not everyone is... even in Valisha, is a Retribution player. But... what else was that? I'm just going to... Aha, it's done. Okay. So... I should be able to bring up, if I can remember how to do it. Our Mythic kills this week, where unfortunately I died on one, but I can't help that. Well, I can, but I didn't. Aha, there we go. So yeah, I mean, mute that. Goroth this week, actually, we embarrassed ourselves on, because we were wiping on this all night. Just going to pause it because no one's asked any specific questions about it yet. We were wiping on it all night, like all for hours anyway. Eventually had to... sorry, random windows are popping up again. Actually, that was a funny thing. I was saying on Twitter just because I was getting particularly annoyed with Windows 10 because randomly windows will just pop up in front of me, and also sometimes the actual Windows button doesn't work. Sometimes it's just delayed and sometimes it just doesn't work at all. And I had so I posted it on Twitter just out of frustration, and then apparently Microsoft sort of said, oh, you're still having these problems. I haven't replied back to them yet, but the answer is yes, I am. What's my take on Timur Sargeras melee DPS? It's not as nice for melee as it has been in previous tiers. I mean, a lot of people always say, oh, it's not melee friendly, not melee friendly. Raiding in general is not melee friendly, but it hasn't been bad this expansion up to now. I mean, if we look here, I mean, Goroth, for example, you've constantly got to move out to soak. Now, obviously, even ranged, unless you're a BM hunter, don't particularly like doing that. But see, the thing is, as ranged, you can move, okay, not do much DPS. But then once you've arrived where you're going to soak, you can carry on doing a bit of DPS. And then move again. Hi, Calyptic. But for melee, you've got to move out to do your soak and stay there doing nothing before you can sort of move back in. So there's loads of movement on that. Demonic Inquisition, you're at the mercy of ranged. who keep firing quills at you because they're not standing in the right place. Whereas if you're another range, if you know someone's pretty bad at directing quills, you can just make sure you're moving out of the way. The problem, which says Blizzard can't do variation, the problem is, of course, that it's very difficult to not punish melee. It's just the nature of the game. I'm not sure there's a lot Blizzard can do about it. Like, they do help us out. There are some fights, like in general, I'm talking about not in this this tier, where, for example, certain mechanics won't target melee. Unless, of course, you just take all melee, in which case it's forced to. So there's some abilities you don't have to deal with as melee. So they are, you know, helping a little bit. Oh, Renville Squee even higher. But it's just the main thing. The only criticism I really level at Blizzard regarding this is hi Straky. The fact that we've so many melee classes and not that many range classes. So you've got 6 out of the 12 classes have to be melee. There's no saying in that. They have to be. And there's only 3 classes that have to be ranged. And then you've got another 3 classes that can sort of choose. But in reality, they can't, because a shaman, if they've decided to play enhancement, they don't suddenly, not many enhancement shamans are willing or able to just go elemental when they feel like it. The same is true of druids. You know, feral druids are fairly committed feral druids. They don't go boomkin. And then with hunters as well. I mean, survival hunters are a much newer thing. But if someone is playing a survival hunter, it doesn't necessarily mean they could just go to another thing if they had to. If you're doing more single target with Divine Hammer, I mean, again, that's one for the ret one. In pure single target, you are doing something wrong. Maybe you're not tracking stuff. No, you don't need 4 set. Divine Hammer should not do more single target DPS in any situation. But Blizzard overusing mechanics. Again, that's another issue. Like the issue with mechanics is that we get so much notice of them. Like someone was just asking now, for example, on my Patreon Discord thing, for the weak auras that I use. Now, those weak auras tell you a lot that we didn't have in vanilla, for example, and not really that much in TBC. So you had to react to things. Now you don't have to react. You can proact because you know when it's coming. As long as you're paying attention, you know when certain things are happening. So the only way to catch us out is because most mechanics are not difficult to deal with on their own. So what you have to do to catch them out is combine them. You make them run into each other, but not, you know, and try and avoid doing it predictably. So you can have a load of mechanics on a timer, but so that those times will occasionally coincide, just making it more difficult. So, you know, you could argue they have to throw mechanics at us. It's the only way to, you know, deal with weak auras making a nonsense of it all. Well, partly, yes. Changing between specs from the point of view of legendaries doesn't make it easy. But even before this legendary system, ferals didn't just consider themselves... Like, you know, if at a certain level, mythic level, you shouldn't really consider yourself a particular spec. Like, you can't call yourself an outlaw rogue. You're a rogue and you'll play whatever spec is best. Whereas with a druid, it's always accepted that a feral druid is different to a balanced druid. If a spec is particularly, like, really powerful, I don't know why that would be, because they keep talking about the fact that all classes and specs have a tuning knob. So if it's just they're doing straight up too much damage, I don't know why it's not turned down. However, when it comes to the issue of certain classes being very powerful, that's largely as a result of the fact that those classes have access to multiple DPS specs. So, you know, they can use one on one fight and then another on another, and that's part of the benefit of them. I think Blizzard will make another Warcraft game. I don't know what type of Warcraft game it would be. I would like it to be an MMO. Obviously, it's a very delicate one for them, because like when they went from, like, you had Warcraft first of all, then you had Warcraft 2. Well, why wouldn't people play Warcraft 2? Because it was a better, well, in most people's views, it was a better version of Warcraft 1. I didn't like it as much. Then Warcraft 3 came out, and that was better than either of them, so of course you switched to Warcraft 3. Then World of Warcraft came out, but people were still playing Warcraft 3 because there were different types of game. Now, in theory, if they brought out, because this is like Warcraft 4, isn't it? If they brought out Warcraft 5, my audio's messed up. Is this better or not? Or do I have to switch completely? Just let me know if this is better. If it's not, I will switch to a different output. Oh, it's fixed. Okay. I know what that issue is. When I do these talks, by the way, I usually just use the system sound, but I still had my voice meter banana connected from last night when I was streaming the raid, which I have to use that for streaming raids. Occasionally, it just goes a bit funny. Yeah, sorry, I do know what that is. There's nothing I can do about it, unfortunately. It just happens every now and then. I do usually only use that for raids because it does that sometimes. I've forgot what I was talking about now. Hold on. I've forgotten. Someone will have to remind me. We'll have to just talk about something else. I've completely forgotten. It's Hakili's always updated because it uses the APL from Simcraft. So, oh yeah, Warcraft, that was it. So when the APL is updated in Simcraft, then Hakili does the update as well. Yeah, so it'll be, so we're Warcraft 4. The next game will be Warcraft 5. Now, if it was not an MMO, then that's sort of okay. People can keep playing WoW and then whatever Warcraft 5 is. But then what sort of game would Warcraft 5 be? Whereas if it was another MMO, it's not quite like going through Warcraft 1, 2 and 3 because you didn't have a character you were invested in. You were just playing through a game and each game lasted whatever it lasted. Whereas here, some of us have been investing in a character for 12 years. It's not easy to say to someone, right, we're going to pull the plug on this game and you're going to start from level 1 on, even if it's a better MMO. So I would have thought they must be doing some sort of future planning for it because to keep the franchise going when this game doesn't. But I don't think there's any, and whatever it is would obviously take years worth of production as well. So, you know, whatever game it'll be will take 3 or 4 years, you would think, to actually make. So, I don't know. But, you know, it wouldn't be this game. It would be another game. I mean, I keep saying I think it would be better if the end of World of Warcraft was when Azeroth sort of wakes up. So we have to flee the planet, we go to another world, and then that can be like Warcraft, you know, 5. But I just think it's a really difficult one because most game developers in this situation just have like an MMO, and once it's no longer profitable, they just stop it. Goroth. Well, what was happening? Hang on. So these are just heroic mechanics at the moment. The Reign of Brimstone. So these things here that spawn, I don't even know if you can see my cursor actually, but in the top left of this screen, they you have to soak them, but you have to have multiple people soaking them because the damage is split. One person goes in there, they're going to die. 2 people go in there, they're going to get hurt quite badly. So you need 3 or 4 people to go in there. But the problem is, if you're a melee especially, you're going to go, you know, you're losing a lot of DPS to go and soak that thing. So a lot of people were not quite fancying that. So they weren't. They were just staying on the boss. And the other problem was, let's see if I can get a picture, because I need to get a picture from ranged. So where ranged are, it's okay here because we're at the start of the fight. But as fire starts to spawn in, the thing is that the ranged spawn the pillars. The pillars don't spawn randomly. They spawn on the players. So ranged was tending, instead of, when they had to move for whatever reason, weren't moving back to a sensible position. So they were spawning the pillars in melee, in fire, which meant when you needed them, they weren't there because they're all gone. So it was just a complete farce. Do I think they'll honour everyone's characters? No, it'll be a different game. There'll be no point in trying to transfer a character across. What would be the point in that? It would be a totally new game. And with Metzen, I don't think, the only thing that I knew that Metzen was holding back was player housing. I mean, that's my hope, that once he's gone, but he wasn't necessarily the only one holding it back. Maybe there's just a general view that they don't want to do it. But that's baffling to me because every MMO has player housing, every serious one anyway. Well, you say they find it difficult to do. I regard myself as a paladin, you know, the only reason I wouldn't say I'm not the worst on mobility is because death knights are a thing. And there was one time, which isn't this pull, because this pull we actually killed it, earlier on the night, when there was a Reign of Armageddon right there in the top left, where there that blue marker is, if you can see it, where range should be. And I could see there were only a couple in it. And I went from here all the way over there because no other range were going into it. So if I can do that, I can't imagine anyone. The only excuse, there are a couple of excuses for not soaking on an individual basis. One is that you've just had Crashing Comet, or you've got Crashing Comet, so obviously you don't go into it. And if you've just had Crashing Comet, you may have gone away to get it out of everyone else's face, and then you're too far away from the Reign of Armageddon Reign. No, it's not called that. Sorry, what is it? Brimstone. Reign of Brimstone, whatever it's called. That's fair enough, but that should only be like 3 people. That still leaves 15 people at least if we don't include the tanks. Tanks can sometimes do one, but they don't want to do it all the time because it's dangerous. And we were having tanks dying because they were trying. So that still leaves that's still 5 people that can soak each one. But what I'm saying is I have low mobility and I can get over there. A Death Knight is the only one that I would say, you know, has... What are warrior negatives at the moment? They keep playing gnomes. Yes, they have very high mobility. I'm not sure about the defensives. They have defensives. I wouldn't say they were the best. And I'm not sure about utility either. They've got Rallying Cry. That's nice. That should have been given to us. They should have let us keep Devotion Aura and they could lose Rallying Cry. Evening Missile. But obviously warriors are strong. I mean, they're usually strong. They're not always strong. Sometimes they've only been brought just for their Rallying Cry. But in Legion so far they have been quite strong. But you know, that's just... Out of all the non-pure DPS classes, they are usually fairly comfortably off. Again, who knows the reason for that one? I don't know. Rallying Cry is very good. And what makes it even better, I suppose, is the fact that not many non-healing classes have such cooldowns anymore. In fact, do any have? I'm not sure any have. Hi, Azincia. Well, Feral Druids, of course, are going to have a big change in 7.3, which seems to be largely along the lines of dumbing it down. No, there have been a couple of times when Warriors haven't been that strong. As I recall, they weren't that strong in Throne of Thunder. You know, when you brought them along. In fact, it was Rallying Cry you brought them along for there. But as DPS, they weren't that great. Leaked Kulturus leveling armor. The thing is, like, we've sort of known, again, leaks, that it's going to be an old gods type expansion. We also know that the known land masses have sort of been filled in now. You can't really design new land in terms of what we see on the map. So there had to be another one. So Kulturus just makes sense. Hi, Atroxu 1? Atrox 001, is it? I think it is. Someone has to unfollow. Hi, Ak. Oh, I can see you better on this one, Actros. But yeah, so I think a lot of people before even the leak were guessing Kulturus would be involved because it's an obvious one to have, as I say, because we sort of know it's there. We haven't it's easy to put in with hi Sticks, thank you, with what has been in the game before. So it's not like, because they're going to come to a point where they've got to suddenly make up a landmass that hitherto has not even been mentioned, let alone seen. So obviously they want to put that off as long as possible. And of course, as a faction, like, you can easily sort of have it as one of those things that's a reputation faction, because it's not really pro-alliance or pro-horde. So yeah, it people were sort of talking about it. I think even before that. And they may well, yeah, extend it and make a much larger landmass as a result of it as well. Yeah, and Zoth as well. I don't want an underwater expansion. They may do another underwater zone, I suppose, like Vashir. I'm not looking forward to that. But even if they get it working right. But I mean, you could argue that the developers, like the technical guys, would probably like it, because it would give them a chance to do proper water physics. Because, like, for example, that you could sink if you just stood still, instead of magically treading water no matter where you are, that you actually sort of went down, or to a point, I don't know. So because we had new tech in Legion, especially with the view distance, that was a particularly noticeable one. Maybe they want to do something special with water, and this would give them a reason to do it. So again, that would make sense. I just hope they don't overdo it. It's a bit like in Wrath. One of the things I didn't like about Wrath, not that I played a lot of it, was it introduced us to vehicle fights, but then it seemed to overdo them. Well, the thing is that Azeroth is not all that... Even though it's huge, it's filling up the skyline. There's obviously a lot of cloud cover and stuff like that there. They may have done. People keep poking me. Oh no, what now? Boats. Boat mounts. No. Do you know, the thing I really didn't like about Warcraft 2 was the boats. That was what put me off the actual game. The story, I played through the campaign, that was alright. But the actual... See, when I played against another person, I would still just play Warcraft 1. Because I couldn't stand it. Really couldn't stand it. I mean, I don't really like it even. Like, Civilization's another type of RTS, isn't it? Where you can sometimes have boats, and I'm not keen on that either. Like the naval aspect to it. But again, I mean, anything's possible, of course. They could. I mean, that was what people were thinking with the shipyard, wasn't it? When we got the shipyard in WoD, that in actual fact, what people would really like is if you could actually have proper ships and add another dimension to the game there. I don't know. I think it would just be quite gimmicky. I haven't played Age of Empires of any one or two. No, well, that's the thing. They'd have to change the mechanics, wouldn't they? They'd have to sort of change the physics of water and how it works. I mean, they helped a little bit, didn't they? Because you got the sea turtle mount, so you could at least move underwater more quickly. And if you were, well, you got the sea horse as well, didn't you, like the quest mount? And if you were lucky, you got the special one, which works in any water. Oh, I didn't know about that Thousand Needles boat, did they? I don't know what that was. That's the first I've heard of it. But then I wasn't around for most of Cataclysm either. Because, I mean, technically I left the game at the end of Tier 7 and didn't come back till the end of Cataclysm, Dragon Soul. Although in reality, I did come back for a little bit of very, very casual ICC. playing it with a guild that was not much better than a pug. I don't know. I'm not sure that I would personally like the idea of boats. If it was the sort of thing you could take it or leave it, then that would be okay, because I would just probably leave it. Oh, the raft, the angler thing from Mop, the raft. That was always really annoying, though. Oh, micro holiday event. Oh, no, I've not paid any attention to those, really. The Trial of Style I may pay attention to when that comes along, because that sounds good. Hi, Big Tiger. But most of the mini holidays, they're a good idea, you know, but we are planning on doing Black Temple this Sunday as a guild. So that'll be a case. Well, I was trying to remember all the fights yesterday when I was doing a bit of a video on it. Yeah, the dance studio is a load of. I mean, I tried that on the PTR. That's just pointless. I don't. It looked interesting at first, and then you just realise that nothing actually happens. It's just blocking off an auction house. Although, as the guard points out there, if you complain, there is another one in the city. Although it's just as well as Alliance, because I don't know where the second one is in Orgrimmar. The boat mount was the speed of a flying mount, was it? A speedboat. Right. Maybe we can have a submarine then. I don't know where there's more than one, so that still wouldn't help me. It wouldn't help if the guard told me there was another two, because I would only know where there's one. Well, there's at least two in Orgrimmar, just like there is in Stormwind. But because when the dance studio comes in, it completely the auction house it's in, and for the Alliance it's in the for both of them actually, it's in near the entrance. So then the Alliance it's the one in the trade district, and for Horde it's the one near the entrance, and you can't use it as an auction house during that period. But I don't even know where the Brawlers Guild is for Horde. Oh no, I do. Yes, I do. You had to go there, didn't you, for when you did Pandaren as Horde? I didn't even know there was a Druid section. There's a tree in Orgrimmar, is there? I didn't know there were that many trees in the whole of Durotar. Where are we going with this? So yeah, we're going to have to hope that we get through our Mythic clear a bit quicker this week, because we've got to do Mistress Sassine, which we had a little go at last night. Although that was interesting. Well, in Stormwind, there's a second auction house in the Dwarven district. And the Brawlers Guild is you have to sort of go into the Deep Run Triumph area from the Stormwind side. People keep poking me on, like, stuff. Excuse me. Oh yeah, as well, if anyone was watching last night, by the way, I had a proper look at those lore tweets as well. I really don't think they were anything to do with me. Someone just posted that seemed to be like me. The Dwarven district is amazing. I spent most of my time after the redesign, after Cataclysm. If I'm in Stormwind, that's tend to be where I go, because, you know, it's quite convenient. It's near the Deep Run tram. It's got an auction house now. It's got a mailbox. Plus, it's near the keep, so you can get back to whatchamacallit. Also, if you're an engineer, it's also convenient for that, even though you have to get your stuff from gnomes. But that doesn't seem to be helped. What's no this? Oh my goodness. Keep that up there because we need to see it. There we go. But yeah, so I don't know what Blizzard are going to do to Kil'jaeden now. They have to do something, I guess, because there's been a lot of complaints that that's basically undoable. So it's Avatar first of all that's undoable. Then they're making everyone re-progress on bosses they'd already killed. And then, you know, Kil'jaeden looks like that's another turnip from a design point of view. And again, I just, you know, this insistence on bringing stuff out. There used to be a time when they wouldn't bring stuff out until it was ready. Someone who can't, if you still haven't decided on an out for Legion, leaving it a bit late, aren't you? You dislike playing casters. Well, oh, well. You like range, but you don't like casters and you don't like hunters. You are a little bit stuck, I'm afraid. There's not a lot of choice. It depends on which hunter you're playing. I mean, you could play... Marksman is not as... I mean, I play Beastmaster as my main out precisely because... I'm not even going to try and say that name. That's just misbehaving. ST1VXTR1M. What is that? It's so simple to pick up, so I use that as my split raid out so that I can attempt to at least beat the tanks on damage. What do I think of pug raids in Mythic, Nighthold, TOV and EN? Fortunately, I haven't had to do them. The advantage of being in a raiding guild is you don't really have to pug unless you want to do it on like your 5th alt or something. And my aversion to pugs is greater than my desire to get any gear on my alts, which you can get it elsewhere anyway. I think it's all just too brutal, really. There are not, in the modern game, bosses that have taken longer than that at all, no. You know, when you're talking about bosses that have taken longer than that, you're really going back to talking about maybe like Kel'Thas or something like that, aren't you? But that was just when they were either bugged or just tuned really tightly. Because there was an attitude at every level of the game that you tune these... Some bosses are gear checks, and that can include the last boss of the instance. So you ain't killing it until you've farmed it a bit. And that's okay. If that's going to be your attitude, that's okay. But that's not how it's been recently. It has been the case that it was possible for the very seriously prepared guilds to have the gear, even though it would be tuned tightly, to beat them within a couple of weeks. Now, I would be fine with Blizzard saying, no, we're not really happy with this and we want to sort of change that. But then it ought to be the sort of thing they say, because these people... If you've got to think about it, some of these people actually do work, and they're booking a couple of weeks off work to do this, and then finding themselves in a position where, hang on a minute, we still haven't killed it, what's going on? And you know, and when it's no fault of that, when they, because that's it. It's from point of view, picture yourself point of view of a guild that's all about the progress. So you're going to be playing silly numbers of hours every day, and when you got one boss right, you're ready for the next. You're going to go to the next. To be in a position where you're just saying to yourself, you know, for each other, there's nothing we can do on this boss. It's actually impossible, and then you've got to stop that momentum you've got going. And although some people will say, oh, well, it's only a couple of guild Sodom or something like that. Again, you know, there's a lot of people that enjoy watching that race as well, even in Manav. So, yeah, that is the problem. Hi, Simply Red. Or Simply Reborn. Yeah. Yeah, that is the problem. It's not the mechanical difficulty of the boss. as far as I know, you know, well, they will be able to deal with that. The difficulty is the fact that it's either stuff's killing them too quickly, or they're not able to DPS things down quickly enough, even though they're excellent players with some of the best gear. And it won't be deliberate, this, because I say Blizzard, I think, would have said something if they were going to change their philosophy on how the raid bosses were going to go. So they've this is just stuff that was unintended. The fact that they've made so many changes in the first couple of weeks shows you that they did not intend the bosses to either be done the way they were done or to behave the way they were done. So it's not been a good advertisement for their quality assurance team, really. There's the other soak on this one. Is the next soak on this boss. How to fix it then? They just have to. It's not an easy thing. They've got to bring out these raids at a certain amount of time. They've only got so much external testing, which is the best sort of testing. It's not an easy thing, but they probably should work on the principle that stuff comes out when it comes out. If they knew that Tomb of Sargeras wasn't going to be ready, they should just not have announced the release date of it and just given it another couple of weeks. You know, people would rather it came out working than not. Because it's not even just about those very top guilds either. It's about the guilds. You imagine you're in a position where in the first week you killed Mistress Sassine, right? So, and then maybe you killed Maiden straight after. Maybe you had enough time to do Maiden as well, which is considered an easy boss. Maybe you were on 7 out of 9. But you're at least on 6 out of 9. Then imagine you're a guild who on your last raid night of that first week was close to a Mistress Sassine kill, but didn't quite get it. A bit like us with Sisters. So then the next week you're going to go, right, we're nearly there. We're going to kill it next week. And then you find you've got to use a new strategy because what you were doing doesn't work anymore. Well, that's just crap. And that could have happened to dozens of guilds. So you're now not just talking about a couple of the very top guilds. You're talking about hundreds of players. Is Tomb of Sargeras tuned to be harder than Nighthold? Well, it is at the moment. It wasn't looking like that to begin with. The progress to begin with looked to be roundabout on a par with where Nighthold was. And that would have been fine. Especially for a summer raid, you know. And also, because Nighthold lasted a good amount of time. I don't think Nighthold was beaten too quickly. From anyone. Whether you're talking about the top guilds or the not so top guilds. I think it was a good pacing Nighthold. Oh, excuse me. But Tomb of Sargeras I thought was looking like good, and then they just changed it all. So I don't know. Maybe they thought that it was a bit too easy, some of the mythic bosses, so that's why they made it more difficult. Or maybe they thought it favoured certain classes, although they don't usually bother about that. I suppose it depends on the classes it seems to favour. And what's this? Drown yourself in the circle of stars. What on earth is that? No, I didn't. I haven't checked Reddit. I usually only check Reddit at the weekend. It's the only time I have time to be sort of idly flicking through websites, usually. What is that, then? You have to explain that one. On Reddit today, came up with a really nice theory about the drown yourself in the circle of stars. Blizzard did say, just talking about you, Frozen Man, that tiers should last 4 to 5 months. So that means at the outset, they're expecting this tier to last... Oh, when did it come out? Beginning of July. So, basically to November-ish. You know, at the outside. So we would be expecting to see the next raid, the Argus raid, before the end of the year, if they're going to still stick to that. What item level does the change to the Blessing of the Ashbring actually get? I don't know. Because obviously it depended on what your it's not, you're not going to get it anytime soon. Put it that way. You would probably be talking at least in Mythic Tomb of Sargeras gear, at the very least, to be worth the same. But I haven't worked it out because it doesn't really matter. The reason they made that training, they never should have had it as a flat strength amount anyway. That was just stupid. They always should have had it as scaling. Oh, it was one of Il'gynoth's nonsense whispers. Oh, I didn't know that the forum had got rid of the downvote thing. Oh, you're Steve Extreme, are you? Okay. I still have a fairly unique name. Actually, when in vanilla there was a hunter called Thete as well. I don't know how that came about. But since then, I haven't really seen any others. Most of the Thetes about seem to be me on another server. I didn't know you couldn't downvote on the forums anymore. Thank you very much. Because yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? You can use it to troll people, but you can, because some people have like little mafias, don't they? So if you say something that someone doesn't like, and then they just encourage everyone they know to downvote it. It's, remember if it's Thete. It's a Greek word, so like Crete, but it's not a name of an island. Hi, Trilia. Oh, so this is just something that's happened today, is it? No downvotes. Oh well. I imagine, I suppose, that I mean, there could be a real reason and a reason given. The reason given will be so people don't, you know, actually good posts don't get downvoted by people maliciously, which can happen. Although I imagine that, because I don't think even before you could downvote blue posts. That wasn't a thing. You weren't allowed to do that. Yeah. I suppose it's just to prevent, like, as I say, effectively cyberbullying. When people do make a perfectly good post. Because at the end of the day, I always view it's a bit like television, really. If you don't like something someone says on a forum, you don't need to downvote it. You just don't read any further. It's the same with YouTube. I've never really disliked a video on YouTube. I've never disliked a video on YouTube. If I don't like it, I just stop watching it. Simple. It's always a weird thing as well, a dislike on YouTube, because you don't really, because you're not even sending a message. I think some people think they're sending a message, but they're not. Because if someone likes it, they're just saying, oh, I like this content, do more of it. But if someone dislikes it, okay, they're saying they dislike it, but it's like, well, what do you dislike? Is it the quality? Is the audio bad quality? Is the visuals bad quality? Does it not go into enough detail? Do you just disagree with something that's said? It's just a meaningless statement. Did I decide on my summer reading project? No, it may not even be a reading project. It may be playing more Lord of the Rings online while it's still going, because again, I fear that may not go for much longer. So I may, and they don't seem to help you in that one to level up very much. You still have to do it up all, and that there's I can't remember. That's actually close to. I think it's about the same as the level in Legion as well. I think it's like 110. And whereas the main character I had is still only 75. So I may just start again with several characters and stuff like that and just, you know. So it may be that, maybe more Elder Scrolls Online, it may be, there's various things it could be, so, but I haven't decided for certain on that. I know, well, I've seen the thing for Mordor, that's what's making me think, because obviously the Lord of the Rings Online follows the storyline of the ring. Now, once they're starting to introduce Mordor, you're in endgame, aren't you, really? So, I mean, it's like any other MMO. While it continues to be profitable, I suppose they'll keep doing it, which it seems to be, but it gets no development. At some point, people are just going to stop it just because the game is... It was never it never seemed modern even when it first came out. Because it's not much younger than WoW. It came out during vanilla, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it came out, you know, after WoW, but not much after WoW. Hi, Sensation. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it was. Was it even as late as 2007? I thought it was earlier than that. Oh no, hang on. Yeah, it must. You're right, because it's just had its 10th anniversary, hasn't it? So maybe that was TBC then. Maybe I got a bit wrong. But it's been out a long time. But you know, I remember when it first came out, I had a little go. Of course, how could I resist Tolkien? And that's what I like about it. Actually, it's really faithful to Tolkien's books. You know, it doesn't do what the films do and try and do its own thing. But that's really all you play it for, because the gameplay is shocking. If you can get 2 Sargeras gear from the Nether Shard vendor, you are not supposed to be able to. So the answer should be no. They did say the same thing about legendaries, although legendaries would be a more difficult thing to have stopped us. It's quite easy to not let us have 2 Sargeras gear from those vendors. They just don't add it to the loot table. So I think the answer, I can say confidently no, because Blizzard insisted that you can't, and they would actually have had to have put in an effort to allow us to. So yeah. So if you've got nothing else you want to spend the nether shards on, probably relics are your best bet. If there's no particular trinkets, because the chance of getting a very high item level thing from those vendors is now really tiny. It's almost not worth using them once you've got your gear above a certain point, because I mean you still would, but it's really slim chance. A bit like the Withering Gym. It's quite funny with Blizzard saying they not going to rebalance the Arcano Crystal because, you know, the chance of it getting up to being decent item level is really small. But obviously the Sony people do it. It doesn't stop some people getting 900 plus Arcano Crystal and still causing trouble. What do I think of the 7.3 PTR so far? I mean, you don't see that much of it at the moment. The quests are there for the first zone at least. There was a world boss, actually, that kicked my head in. That was a bit of a surprise, because at a certain level of gear, you're sort of used to just being able to go up and beat up these elites now. He smashed my head in. And even when I in the end, there was a few other players about, so I went prot spec and I just tanked it while other people killed it. Brutal. No warning. I know it's elite, and Blizzard could say, well, elites are supposed to be done in a group. But, you know, even from early Legion as a Retribution paladin, I've been used to being solo in the elites, and now you can just go through them like hot knife through butter. The quests themselves, I mean, they're just what they are. I'll tell you what I have noticed, though. I mean, Blizzard did say this, to be fair, but it's really surprising just how there's loads of cinematics in it. Now, you don't get to see the cinematics, because obviously they're keeping that a surprise until it launches. But there's loads of time when it sort of fades out and then back again, and it refers to something you've just seen when you haven't seen it. So it's clearly a cinematic. And I think there must have been 4 just for questing. And, you know, excuse me, not including any ones that you might get from other stuff as well. And remember, there's 3 zones. So, yeah, lots of cinematics. And speaking of which, there was something I retweeted. What was it now? One of the senior designers on the cinematics was saying it's his 10th anniversary at Blizzard today. Where was that? I've forgotten who it was as well. I'm not very good with developer names. Terran Gregory. Oh, 11 years ago. July the 10th, he said, though. It's 11th here, but it's because it's America. So 11 years ago yesterday is when he joined Blizzard. He works on the cinematic team. But yeah, so obviously he'll have been busy because there's loads of them. And I can see that there's loads of them just from the little I've done. Obviously, I mean, we saw, well, I'm not going to talk in detail about those because spoilers. But we saw the bits of dialogue. Some of those bits of dialogue were sort of talked in there as well. 7.3 very much looks like being the biggest patch ever. I mean, apart from anything else, you've got 3 new zones. Now, it also depends on what you call a big patch. A big patch could just mean 3 new zones of world quests. But there will hopefully be more to it than that. As I say, all I can see at the moment is the actual quest, not the... Obviously, there's a few world quests popped up, but all I can see is the actual quest. There's a faction there, of course, which you start on fairly unfriendly terms with. So that's obviously the rep grind for you. You travel around. Instead of buying griffins, you just get teleported. So you go to flight points, but they teleport you to places. So that's a little bit different as well. Can't fly. So we can't fly on Argus for reasons unknown. Or maybe you jump somewhere you shouldn't. It will be an extremely lore-heavy raid because although we've heard about Argus before, I think I'm right in saying that we've never actually been there during any of the Warcraft games. It's just been referred to. But it's also been referred to as an extremely important place, which, okay, as it turns out it is, because we now know, just from those dialogue things that have been data mined, and I don't know why it was possible to data mine them, because there's no reason for Blizzard to put anything raid related in the PTR. Because the raid isn't even coming out when the PTR is. Hi, Fardian. So I've no idea, unless they wanted us to see it, why it were even possible to get that. You lost your Gul'dan mount. I lost the Gul'dan mount last reset because, you know, the raid lead kept rolling 6 on it. So I said 1 week, right, I want to be 6. Apart from anything else, 6 is my lucky number anyway. I should have said that from the start. And then the following week, it forgot to put me as the number 6 person and rolled a 6 again. But there's not many people left for it now, or in my tier anyway. Because they killed Elisand and Gul'dan again on Sunday when I was doing final boss, so I missed out on that. So that means someone else has it. So I will get it soonish. Maybe we'll do it again on Sunday or something. Before or after Black Temple. Hopefully before, because I really don't know what we're going to get through Black Temple. Because again, I can see people completely destroying themselves on Reliquary of Souls. What other bosses are going to be really... Like, if we go through it, Nagentis will be straightforward. Supremus is a piece of cake. Akama is a piece of cake. Oh dear, I died. Next, Terran Gorefiend, but there might be the odd wipe there, even if you try and explain it. I don't have any footage, unfortunately. I do have footage of my first kill of Terran Gorefiend, but unfortunately I didn't get ghosted on that pull. So I don't actually have footage of the ghosting happening. And also I had some really useful macros for that back in the day. And it was literally only a couple of years ago I got round to deleting them because I needed the space for other macros. So I don't have them anymore either. Then you've got Blood Boil, which you'll be able to manage because I mean you can just do the same as you do on Hellfire High Council. Mother Sharaz, it depends how much damage it does. If it is intended to kill you, see, we'd probably get away with it in Mythic gear, I suppose. You know, if people cock it up a bit. So Mother Sharaz hopefully will be all right. The Illidari Council, obviously there's coordination required on that. Again, it depends on how severe the mechanics are. And then Illidan's actually much more straightforward. You can just sort of tell people what to do. It should be okay. Well, I still am concerned about it only being out for a week. You know, I thought maybe they should have brought, you know, have the dungeons for a week and then the raid for a month. And then when the next time walking comes out, then that raid's no longer available. Yes, thank you. Well, yeah. I watched a bit of it, actually, last night. Seemed okay. Although the audio was really weird, but I think that was Skype. Because he sounded fine, both Brandups and myself didn't. I think that's because obviously we're talking through Skype, and Skype, you could hear a lot of static through Skype as well, so it sounded quite bad. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if Blizzard are ever in the habit of commenting on what they see there. But yeah, those lore tweets were nothing to do with me. They just there was no trace of it in his actual when he looks back in those tweets, and it made no sense anyway because it wasn't anything to do with what I was talking about. Although it would have been funny to have been panned by lore. Sound cut out on some fights. No, are you sure you're not pressing Control and S? Because that would do it. If you have any binds where you could accidentally press Control and S, I have done that before. Yeah, I know. I thought that's what got you thinking about it, just the timing. But I think it was just a coincidence. At the same time, it was a hell of a rant. And if I just close this thing down, because I've got them here. Because without it being anything to do with me even... Oh, where am I going to put this? Tell you what, let's just hide that for now. It was still a spectacular... when is Fat Boss interview coming out? A Fat Boss being interviewed? These are the tweets. But it was quite funny because I was having a look at them. I don't think I'm interviewing them. There was... do you mean Final Boss? Are we getting mixed up here? It's not Fat Boss. I'm on Final Boss. Yeah, that's already out. So yeah, see, I did this last year, you know, when like Blizzard, quite a few of the community managers were really laying into the community during WoD, but I think that was just that's what I thought at the time. There was like a siege mentality set up. They were getting so much stick from the player base, and it's probably quite easy in their position to feel that you're being unfairly maligned because there'll be plenty of fanboys telling they're doing a fantastic job. And obviously, on balance, they are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be putting so much effort and you know, into the game because we like playing it. So obviously, the majority of them doing a bang-up job. But they were getting really, really rude, and I just feared this sort of siege mentality of them and us. But I just reasoned that that was because it was WoD, and that with Legion being so much better, that it's been on the decline. But then you still get stuff like this, and it's like, in what other industry would anyone be allowed to say this to their customers, or even publicly, let alone from PR people? Well, there is... Well, no, you can understand that. Obviously, they're now his friends, his colleagues. He thinks he's sticking up for them. But it's so unprofessional. I cannot... Nowhere have I worked where you could say anything. Even... Because you can imagine there's PR people in some companies where customers... Okay, customers sometimes are really, really stupid, but you're not allowed to call them that. I'm not allowed to call... You know, I'm not allowed to call parents of my students stupid or irresponsible or anything like that, even though some of them are. You can't do that. I mean, if you'd have left it at this one, you know, if you spend all your time insulting devs, you'll never work in this because no one will want to work with you. If you'd have left it at that, then that would have been okay. That's just him sort of saying, the way you're behaving is not really conducive to what you want. But all the rest of it just went mental. And then, ironically, someone posted something about being respectful, and he replied back, oh, yes, like 10 million% this. And I'm thinking, well, not terribly respectful himself, is he? Well, see, the devs, I don't mind so much, because, to be fair, they're not employed to be PR people. They're employed to be a game developer, and but their job sort of requires them to engage with the community, but that's not what they're paid for. So if some of them are not very good at engaging with the community, I generally give them a little bit of slack as long as they don't go too mad, or if they do, I expect someone to rein them in. But when someone who is specifically employed for community relationships, like public relations, I expect them to be much more reserved and to diffuse situations, not inflame them. You know, I mean, we've got every right to criticise, and sometimes our criticisms may not be correct because, like, you know, people say quite rightly, we don't know the exact process that goes on. You know, and some mistakes might look ridiculous to us, but maybe they're understandable if you actually understand how the process goes. Fair enough. But, you know, you can't get butthurt. I mean, I'm criticised everyone's criticised in their job, and sometimes it is unfair. You know. But you just have to put up with it. But at the same time, what we don't want is a situation where we're saying that the devs shouldn't post on forums because people like them to. People would like them to do it more often. Obviously, again, we understand they don't have the time to spend all day on the forums typing stuff out. So, you know, like, for example, we'll get to a situation now where I was saying, you know, obviously, in my opinion, Rets need some tuning for Tomb of Sargeras, and we're not getting it. And so, you know, we can surmise from that whatever it is they're doing is quite complex. So it's going to take a bit of time. Fair enough. I would like that to be communicated, but then you can sort of understand they don't have time to communicate every little thing to us, and maybe they just don't think it's worth doing that when they don't know a timescale for when it'll be done or anything like that. When do I think they'll get a buff? The fact that they're not even talking about it means possibly not even soon. Like, I've now given up hope. Like, the last couple of Fridays, I was on tenterhooks thinking, they're going to announce it now, they're going to announce it now, and they didn't. You know, last Friday was really good because there was really a strong sense, I don't know whether anything was leaked, sort of, maybe. There was really a strong sense they were going to say something. And then they did. They announced some changes to Feral in 7.3. So now I'm just leaving it as it is. I'm just thinking, you know, maybe it will happen after we've already finished progress. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Something will happen during Tomb of Sargeras. They can't just leave it 7.3 because 7.3 is at least 2 or 3 months away. So, when would it be? I think 3. If we're going to imagine Tomb of Sargeras is going to be out for 5 months, and it's been between 4 and 5 months. They probably don't want more of a gap than 2 months between the patch coming out and the raid coming out. Because although they've tried to separate raid from main patch, people want the raid. As soon as the patch comes out, people want the raid. So they don't want to leave it too long. So, hooray, there'll be plenty of time-gated content to do, just like there was in the Broken Shore. Except that never made any sense, did it, the Broken Shore? This idea that we're week by week doing stuff, getting ready to breach the Tomb of Sargeras, because we breached the Tomb of Sargeras in the first week, didn't we? When Dalaran shot its death ray out and broke the doors. That was us breaching the Tomb of Sargeras. And that happened in the first week. So what were we doing in the other 11 weeks, or however many weeks it was? I don't get that. I think Method are like a lot of other people in their position, quite happy just taking rogues. And the odd warrior for executey time. Yeah, well, Windwalkers suffer from the same problem that Rets sometimes, in that they just have that 1 DPS spec. So if something's not quite right, you can't switch to another. Like, warriors can switch between Fury and Arms. Death Knights between Holy and Frost. You don't really get that option as a monk. Or a priest. Or a demon hunter, I suppose now. Yes, I saw Alpha. Yeah, they also posted what I was trying to find and I couldn't find it. Someone linked it. I should have taken a copy. They also posted some initial wipes on it. A video of some of their early wipes, which were ranging somewhere between lasting about 20 seconds and a minute before they were all dead. Wowhead. I don't know. WoW Progress is updated with it. Well, Wowhead is manually updated, of course, isn't it? I suppose. to a certain extent. Well, there was some news today. Apparently coffee, in some respects, is quite good for you. People live longer on it, but unfortunately, I don't like coffee. Basically, in terms of videos relating to Tomb of Sargeras, I have a few more days left. I have this week left at work, which means that next week I would be able to do at least a video a day on that sort of stuff. So I need to finish off the heroic stuff. Then I need to do the general retribution in heroic, which will include trinkets, or I may do a separate one on trinkets. I haven't decided yet. And then I can start to do the mythic stuff. So, well, it is updated, isn't it? I'm sure it was. I checked it out. Hold on. We'll soon sort this out. Come here, behave yourself. Oh, for goodness sake, go away. Oh, yeah. I was sure I saw it, but it's not. You're quite right. They're... Oh, it never behaves itself, this thing. Yeah, it's not updated. Where did I see it then? Because I've seen them on 8 out of 9 myself. I suppose it's because with WoW Progress, they don't update it until enough people have logged off. And if they haven't logged off because they're actually trying to work on it, then that might explain it. I guess. I don't drink tea. I don't like tea or coffee. Oh, does it not track Asian rods? Well, there you go then. I did not realise that. No, I actually don't like tea or coffee. I just have like, well, at the moment, lemonade. But fruit squash usually. I've forgotten where I was again now. Oh no, I think that was it. Oh no, what's going on? Done that. Right, hang on, I've lost something else now, haven't I? Oh yeah. Oh, I think that was just about done. Yeah, I was dead. Never mind. Well, the thing is, like, I mean, at some point they might, like, Exorcists themselves really properly rose to prominence in Hellfire Citadel, but, you know, they'd been doing well before that. It just, even, it takes time, doesn't it? You're not going to suddenly put a guild together and be pushing for world first immediately. You know, you have to practice it. You have to experience going through a tier, doing that level, and learn from it and get better, don't you? And I suppose there's also only so many players that have the capacity to do it at that level. Because I mean, I wouldn't even enjoy it. Sorry. Yes, there are Starbucks. There's even Starbucks in my college. It is everywhere, just like it is in any other part of the world. Starbucks and Costa Coffee seem to be the ones that are just everywhere. You can't move for them. Except in the news this week, this was in the UK at least, it may have put some people off, but there were some tests done and there was bacteria found in the ice that Starbucks used, which is associated with fecal matter. So that was nice. So I strongly suspect their health and safety officer has got some questions to answer. Exactly. Well, this is the problem you see with getting food or drink from anywhere, where if it's like fast food or something like that, you have to be very careful. Do they actually operate under like what we would consider good hygiene? The answer is not always yes. Well, even human fecal matter, it could have just been someone not washing their hands correctly. Yeah. So, I mean, I make my own ice. I have ice, like little ice bags, which at the moment I don't need, I'm thankful to say. We've been a bit weird here with the weather because it seems to be a week of really hot weather. I can't be doing with it. And then it's been cool for a week. Then last week it was really hot again all week. And then this week it's nice and cool, it keeps raining. Which probably means next week it'll be really hot again. But at least I'll be off work and I can put a big bowl of ice there and a fan there and just blow it over the bowl of ice. Homemade air conditioner. Well, we weren't particularly on the topic. We'd finished that topic anyway. So we're waiting for the next topic to come along anyway, I think. So let's have a little look. If Blizzard have even announced anything today, but I don't think they had. Not last time. Yeah, just like you say, it's the downvotes thing. Oh, there are hotfixes announced today. I strongly suspect it's not going to be anything to get excited about. If this thing wants to work, which it doesn't at the moment. Fallen Avatar. With realm restarts in each region on Mythic difficulty, 5 shadowy blades now spawn instead of 7. So a small nerf to Fallen Avatar. Obviously it was the daggers causing all the problems. And then as usual a load of PvP. There always seems to be PvP hotfixes every week. What's that about? That seems to be an area they're struggling to get right. Because every week I always see like a couple of fixes and then a load of PvP stuff. Seems to be healers this time. Resto Druids intellect increase. Mistweavers mana regen reduced. Oh, they've been nerfed. Mistweavers have been nerfed in PvP. Holy Paladins intellect increased. Holy Priest being nerfed. The Maper method. Well, I mean, they sort of said that unapologetically, haven't they? That they would make change. Well, they did sort of say they wouldn't make... And that is what's worrying for Rets, actually. They did say they're not going to make major tuning things during progress. Even though they've made some, obviously. So maybe it is the case that they're not in any rush to do anything with Rets. And we'll have to wait until progress is largely over for the more serious guilds. I don't know. Although if they're going to say that on the basis that they don't want to muck about with anyone's progress, I think it's already a little late for that, because just the changes to the bosses has interfered quite a lot. Because it must be really unpleasant when you've got really close to killing a boss and then suddenly a hotfix comes in, which means you have to adopt an entirely new strategy. No, I'm not a PvPer either, so I don't really know either way. I have occasionally gone in with guild into like rated battlegrounds and something. And I was sort of fooled into doing arenas a couple of weeks ago. But generally speaking, I don't know. Although I do need to get the skins for the Ashbringer at some point. Because every time I've been in, I've forgotten to actually have the right skin on it. So I suppose I shall have to put some effort into... Maybe this summer I'll just put some effort into getting some of the skins on it. And maybe at some point I should save up my nether shards, possibly, to do the protection paladin... not hidden artifact, the mage tower quest. What's my favourite paladin tier set? Lightbringer. Tier 6. Although the one I use most of the time is this sort of the cartoonified version, which I'm wearing at the moment, which is actually the Grand Marshal's PvP set, but then that was Paladin stroke Warrior set, really. It wasn't class specific. But in terms of class specific ones, it's the Lightbringer, the tier 6, which the tier 20 is sort of modelled on, but I don't like the tier 20. I don't like the look of it at all. It's too blocky. And even though obviously it's high resolution. Tier 2 is very good. But and I would like a high-res version of it, but I prefer Lightbringer. At the same time, I haven't used Tier 2 for a while. Maybe I will at some point, just for the sake of a change. Excuse, dear me. Tier 4's what Terralion was wearing in his message to Arathor during the Paladin campaign. Not what he's wearing on Argus, but you know what he was wearing in that message. So I thought he was going to be in Tier 4, but no, they made a new thing for him. No, I was asked about the summer books before. I haven't decided yet. And it may not be books this summer. It may just be playing more and various MMOs. Yeah, links can't be posted here in case people post naughty things. That's fine. But yeah, no, because I know I was talking about it, but I don't know. Because the other, as I say, the problem is, like, although I would quite like to read some of the Warcraft novels I haven't read, which is most of them, it's always tricky to know which ones to read because some of them have been retconned, so it's like pointless reading them. You know, you can read a book and get nothing from it lore-wise because it's changed. So that's why I think I'm better off just reading the Warcraft Chronicles. So we've got 2 versions out now. I've got them both. I need to read the first volume again. I need to read that a few times this summer because that's got stuff pertinent to Argus. So I need to start talking with that with a little bit more, without having to sort of scratch the head and remember things, because yeah, a lot of it is quite important for that. Oh right, okay. But no, the transmogs I sort of have that I occasionally rotate between is the Marshall's vanilla set, PvP set. Judgment set sort of, but I don't use it that much. The Anchorage set I actually quite like, even though it doesn't look very paladin-y. It's good set. Lightbringer, Soulforge. Now all of these are not with the hats, of course. I don't think paladin helms have ever looked good. What I quite used to quite like with my Lightbringer was actually the helm you could get, which looks like the warrior one in a set, but it's the helm you could get from the Illidari Council, which I'm hoping I've got somewhere in my transmog. That, you know, because I actually had that helm when I had Lightbringer and was using it properly. So, yeah, I quite like. That's the only helm I've had on show, because I remember, like in vanilla, the helms were always really bad looking, and then I eventually, because I didn't realise straight away, I was such a noob, that you could hide the helm. And I pretty much have hidden it ever since, because apart from now when I wear my captain's hat, because that's quite good. But most actual paladin tier helms I just don't think look good. The Judgment one is a pretty bad one. In terms of tier sets, our worst one was probably tier 1. I refused to wear that even when it was current, although tier 3 was pretty bad as well. Yeah, the tier 4 one. Justicar. I need to get it again, actually. I was quite surprised the other day. I was going to put it on, and then it wasn't in my transmog thing, so I must have deleted the set before the new transmog wardrobe came in. I must have run out of room in my bank and just had to delete it or something. Or maybe I should check my void storage. Maybe it's in there. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to go and get it again. Doesn't the Hammer of the Naru work better with the tier 5? Is the purpley crystals one? The one where people thought we looked like Power Rangers. Although again, I think that was largely the helm. You just don't wear the helm. But in terms of two-handed maces, apart from the Grand Marshal's hammer, which I use now, Torch of the Damned, which you'd be able to get as well, I suppose, with Black Temple coming out. That's quite good. Actually, that's a point. Yeah. Will weapons drop from Black Temple time walking? Because that would be fairly... I don't think... I suppose it won't be completely pointless. Because with time walking, it's not just top levels that do it, is it? You could do it with a lower level character, can't you? But that would be a bit funny if you just did it with... Hi, Wolfpack. If you just did that with high levels, wouldn't it be... What? You can't see anything on a gnome mog. All you see is their bald head and stupid beard. It covers everything up. Yeah, I should think it has the normal loot table. In which case, that would be quite disappointing, wouldn't it? Because the item level is supposed to be quite high for a lot of it, like it's 900-ish. It doesn't Titan Forge though, does it? Time Walking gear. What do I think about the trinket from Time Walking? What trinket? Oh, it can... To 915, really? I didn't know that. Oh, cunning. Okay, I did not realise that. That's cunning. So it's in the... Okay, then hold on. Let's... have a look at this then. Take a little while to load it up. Let's try this. Right, let's have a look. Let's just move you over there. Come on, there you go. Come on, load. Crit buff on melee. Oh, the trinket I remember being that was quite good there was also from Illidari Council. Let us see. Hold on. Raids. Burning Crusade. Black Temple. Ah. So, okay. Oh, come here, behave. So, Illidari Council had, there it is, Madness of the Betrayer. Is that the one you mean? Yes, I remember also having... No, I don't watch television. I don't have time to watch telly. So, Madness of the Betrayer was a good trinket. It doesn't have, I note, the helm. What is going on? Why isn't the helm... Does it only drop a selection of gear? Because it used to drop a nice helm, Illidari Council. Oh, this is the helm it used to drop. Did it? Or am I mixing it up? Yeah, that's the one that I used to quite like. Maybe I'm mixing up the bosses. It was a long time ago, I suppose. No tier bonuses on the Lightbringer chest card. I suppose that should come as no surprise. So, in terms of the tier for the things for Paladins, you used to have the Tide Stomper Greaves. The belt, actually, ironically, the belt was a bit of a cock-up now. Let's... we can't get all of it because some of it dropped in Hydril. So... But the problem was there is a belt that dropped off trash, but it was the wrong colour. You see this Lightbringer is like yellow and blue, whereas the belt was yellow and red, which is the PvP set. So to get the belt that actually matched this gear, you had to buy it for badges from one of Adal's mates in Shatter the City. Oh, the loot tables are different, I'm going to say, because I was quite sure that that thing dropped from... So there's a pet on, I've already got one of those, it's just the same one you can get from normal Black Temple. So let's go through that. So that'll be easy, that'll be easy, that'll be easy. That will not be easy. That should be okay. That people will just kill themselves on. What's it called now? Not Aura of Desire. Not Aura of Anger either, is it? What am I thinking of? Is it? Or is it Aura of Suffering, maybe? No, it's not. It's the second phase, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, there we go. Damage taken when damage dealt. So you could very easily, if you crit for what was basically your health, you could actually just kill yourself. So classes and specs that do very, very big hits will need to beware on that fight. So I can see Reliquary of Souls being a real problem. We used to cheese that a little bit, actually, using Divine Intervention as Paladins. Actually, how it used to work, not how it works now. That will, I don't know, it depends on how... What's the name of it? These beams... Oh, 4 beams! Hang on, is this right? I thought there were just 3. There's 4 of the beams. That's awkward. So you'd have to have someone go that way, someone go that way, someone go straight ahead, and someone stand still. So there needs to be an add-on, really, that marks people to do that easily. Fire Mage Power Blast. Well, yeah, anything that can proc for several million, you need to be a little bit careful of. So, but yeah, that could be tricky. That will, I mean, the last 4, anything... Well, there's quite a lot of bosses, really, where... I mean, we might get through it just because it's... I don't know. Because although I say we might get through it because it's just like... It's not exactly Mythic, scale to Mythic level, but nonetheless, if the gear it's dropping is like 900 standard, it ought to be reasonable difficulty. At least like normal to Sargeras. So yeah, we could potentially... Actually, ironically, out of those last 4 bosses, Illidan could probably be the easiest. And even the most boring fight, really, because there's a lot of that fight we just have to spread out and do nothing. Well, we can. I mean, we can read what mechanics are going to be in. They seem to be. I can't. It depends on the fight. I'm not seeing any mechanics of the tricky. I mean, let's look at the tricky mechanics. So Terran Gore Fiend is. I can't remember what the name of it is now. Incinerate was the nasty one. They made me dispel that. So the Terran Gore Fiend. So the video of our first kill was actually on that video I did yesterday, and I actually did reasonable damage overall, considering that they were complete arses to me in that guild. Because I'd only just switched to Ret recently, so I wasn't that experienced at doing it in a raid. And they made me try and do damage when I was a clicker as well. And dispel the Incinerates. The Incinerates, let's have a look what these do. I don't know what these numbers mean, because I don't know what health you've got at level 70. That's the problem. But at the time... When this Incinerate hit you, it would kill you within a few seconds. So whoever was going to dispel it had to be, you know, right on it. But at those days, you didn't have a cooldown on your cleanse or whatever you used to dispel it. Whereas you do now. So, I mean, they weren't exactly spammed, but they were frequent. So let's have a look. Shadow of Death. So the abilities on Terran Gore Fiend are still there. The ones that make it difficult are still there. Gurtok Blood Boil. Let's have a look at the Blood Boil itself is the really tricky one. So that's still there. Reliquary of Souls. We've already seen the auras are still there. So those abilities are still there. This ability, I mean, I only remember 3 beams. But then to be fair, I have lost a long time ago the kill video. I did do kill videos for all of these bosses. I've lost most of them. So those were the difficult mechanics. They're all still there. Illidari Council. Let's have a look because there's loads of mechanics in this. He still does his Consecration. That was really nasty. He still does his Hammer of Justice, although that wasn't that bad. You could dispel it. The Rogue still does its Vanish and Poison. So that's still going to be the same. This is still going to be the same. All that lot's still there. And the Healer, Circle of Healing, that's what needs an interrupting. That's still there. So all the mechanics are still there. At least according to this. I don't know how easy or difficult it is because I didn't get to try it on PTR myself. And obviously, just because it was on PTR doesn't necessarily mean that it would stay that difficulty. They might have still carried on tuning afterwards. Because there was a long gap between when it was available for testing on the PTR and now. Because this didn't even come out with 7.3, did it? We've had to wait for Burning Crusade Time Walking. Illidan looks to have all the same abilities. Let's have a look. So there's that one with the splash damage. You have to get yourself into 4 groups. That one. Oh, his eye. I can't see his eye beam. Alright, maybe he doesn't do his eye beam. I've found one mechanic that he doesn't seem to do anymore. Those still the same. Those still the same. No Warlock tank indeed, yeah. So, yeah, I don't actually know. Put it back there. I don't know what we're going to do about that. Oh, you've just done it. Wiped on... Well, if you got all the way up to... Did you get all the way up to Illidan without wiping then? Because of all the bosses I would have thought you'd wipe on, Illidan wasn't top of the list. I mean, it was a fairly long fight, so there's always things that could do you. But I would have thought something like Reliquary of Souls or Illidari Council or Terran Gorfin would have been the worst ones. But if that's not the case, then I suppose it'll be fairly straightforward. Supremus? All you have to remember on Supremus is move away from the volcanoes. How do you die on that? What? That's like the second easiest fight in there. Oh, you didn't clear the trash. Oh. Yes, you do have to clear the trash around the edge of it because... Hateful Shark, behave. You just need 2 tanks. Because you need to kite him around that whole top area when he's fixating. That's the only thing to watch out for. If you see something appear under your feet, move. All there is to it. Everything else is easy. But yes, I suppose if you're going to pull trash with it as well. I'm fine, thank you, Pinky Tiger. Even though I was sneezing like mad at the beginning of the show. But that was, I don't know what that was about. Can't believe it was hay fever because it's been raining all day, but I don't know. But Mother Sharaz I can believe because of the, I suppose it would be the beams. Oh, Fatal Attraction as well. Yeah, that's the one where you get teleported somewhere and then all have to move away from each other. So you've got to be, yeah, Fatal Attraction. Well, you say messing it up. I suppose it depends on how you can deal with it. I remember at the time there was an add-on that we had that just had arrows and it said, so to someone it would say move that way and to someone else it would say move that way and someone else it would just say stay where you are. But without an add-on, I don't know. They have talked about it. I think they're wrong on this. Their view, they said they're open to it, but in their opinion, vanilla dungeons do not lend themselves to the time walking format. By which I suppose they mean you go in, do them fairly quickly and easily, don't need to know how the dungeons work. not great long sprawling things, which some of the vanilla dungeons are. But I think there's enough for that. I mean, if we have a look, like, hold on, dungeons. Black Fathom Deeps would be fine for it. That would not. Dead Mines would be fine. Diamol, possibly not Diamol. Nomrigan, probably not. Lower Bracklock Spire, would that? That'd be a longish one, wouldn't it? Moradin, no. Ragefire Chasm, quite a small one, easy. Razorfen Downs, probably not, because you've got 2 routes. Razorfen Crawl, the new version, would work fine. Scarlet Halls would work fine. Scarlet Monastery would work fine. Scholarmance, the new Scholarmance would work fine. Shadowfang Keep would work fine. That one, maybe not. That one, again, you probably wouldn't have that and Ragefire Chasm because they're both quite short. That one, I suppose, with the new style, you could do it. No. 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 But there's enough there. You only need 6. So there's 6 dungeons there that I think you could do. So I think they're wrong. But yeah, the last thing they had to say on the subject was last year, I think, where they said they're open to it. They just don't think vanilla dungeons are suitable. Some vanilla dungeons are a lot longer. I don't think the ones I just mentioned there has been suitable or not. Because a lot of them have been redesigned since then. Like the temple, for example, Sunken Temple, that used to be much longer than it is now. As it originally was, you would say, yeah, not suitable. As it is now, how can you not? You're just going around in a big circle. Oh, yeah, well, that's, yeah, because if you do Demon Hunter, it's obviously too late for this one. Maybe I should, on my Demon Hunter, farm Black Temple each week, try and get the legendaries. Because you get, I mean, you get a special achievement for defeating Illidan in time walking with the Twin Blades, sorry. But I think, do you get the skin for it or something? A hidden skin on your Demon Hunter if you do it, I don't know. Old Sunken Temple. It wasn't the worst one, I don't think. The trolls bit, where you had to just go around the 6 trolls, that was obviously really annoying. But, yeah, I know you get an achievement. Oh, I see. Okay, so it doesn't have to be on that character. Well, maybe I should just do it on my monk then, because my monk... Oh, can you use him on monk? I think you can, can't you? Because my monk has one of them. My Windwalker monk has 1 Warglaive. So possibly it'd be easy if I just did that. Oh, yeah, the troll boss at the bottom, yeah. Well, more likely you were knocked back, weren't you, by one of those drakes that did a bit of a knockback. So you had to be careful about positioning. There were a few things like that, like Upper Blackrock Spire when you were pulling those drakes that knocked back. Or the Dragonkin, I should say, sorry. You had to be careful you didn't get knocked into the eggs below. So you had to have your back up against the wall. So yeah, you had to consider positioning fairly carefully. And something you don't do anymore in dungeons, really. Where you had to frequently pull, instead of running into where the next trash pan was, you pulled it back because you'd be in danger of pulling another trash pack if you just went into it. So what you did instead is like either crowd control some of them or just pull them back behind a wall, line of sight any casters. So that's just behaviour that seems to have disappeared now from dungeons or trash in general. You don't even do it in raids. Pull back trash very often anyway. But yeah, I know. I think there's scope for vanilla time walking. So I'm not really sure what the issue is there. We've got everything else, haven't we, time walking wise? They always said they never do the previous expansion. It's always the expansion before the previous one. Well, in dungeons, actually, we used to test tanks. If we had a new tank join as a trial, we used to test them out by doing a dungeon run, usually to like Strathome or something, like some tough dungeon. And we would tell the people that went with them to pull everything and not wait for the tank, wait for the warrior, to test them out, see how good they were at getting and keeping aggro. So our general strategy is to test people out for healers and tanks, because dungeons are a really good place to test out healers and tanks, because farm raids were a very bad place to test out healers and tanks, because tanking was much easier in raids than it was in dungeons. And for healers, you generally didn't give new healers difficult jobs to do, difficult tasks. So it was very difficult to test them out. So with a tank, as I say, you would just do a rush. You would just tell members of the guild to do a dungeon with them and to rush through it, pull everything, don't wait for the tank to pull, and see how they coped. And for healers, you would tell everyone just to bomb through it as quickly as possible, stand in stuff, don't dispel anything if you've got the capability of dispelling, and see how the healers manage. And not to stop for mana breaks either, just to go. Do I think there'll be a time in WoW where it's more of a choose your faction, your race doesn't determine it? Doesn't determine what, though? Oh, you mean you can have races for either faction? Unfortunately not, no. I think they painted themselves into a corner for that, if that's what you mean. It would always be better... because factions don't work for PvE. They're a barrier, because it means you can't always play with your friends or people you meet and stuff like that. So, and when you're changing guilds, that's obviously another barrier. So factions in PvE are a huge barrier, and I always think MMOs work better when they don't. And not all MMOs have them. Right, I see. I don't think they would now, because it's too much of a part of the game. So it's too key to the game itself. So I don't think they would. I think they might expand into ridiculous areas your choice of race for certain classes, like they keep doing, because they've already brought in some unsuitable combinations. But and I don't just mean because names are a thing, but just other ones in general. Like Night Elf mages should not be a thing. But they are. And there are a few others as well. But I don't think they'll allow you to play a different race on a different faction. But anyway, it's the usual point at the moment where we're going to sort of... I'm just going to get rid of that, actually. Go for the last few questions. We're up to around about the 2-hour mark. So I'll open it out if anyone's got any last sort of things they want to bring up and discuss. Otherwise, we'll sort of call it there. I shall be back streaming, obviously, tomorrow from 7 PM as well. For our farm raid, we should, I think, be doing Heroic Team of Sargeras. I think we might only be doing it on mains, though. Oh, I think we've done with splits. So it should be a quick run through there. And then to do the farm Mythic content, which hopefully will be largely one-shots, but wasn't last week. So we'll have to see there. Obviously, you can sometimes get the odd extra wipe because this is only going to be the 3rd Mythic week next from tomorrow, and obviously we bring people in who maybe haven't done certain bosses. What do I think of all the raids in Legion? Rank them, oh dear. Well, until they started... Hi, Screwly. Unfortunately, you've arrived right at the end. Until they started mucking about, it looked like Tomb of Sargeras might actually be pretty good. But at the moment, it would be Nighthold is clearly the best one. I mean, Trial of Valor was a really good one. It's really strange to rank that second because there's only 3 bosses in it. But the 3 bosses were actually good. See you later, Manav. So, yeah, I would say Trial of Valor next. You would then have to say Tomb of Sargeras. And I would only rank it that low down because they keep buggering about with it. And also, it's not very me-friendly. And then Emerald Nightmare was a bit of a cabbage of a thing, really, because the first 4 bosses were too straightforward. Il'gynoth, in a way, is good because it's one of those things where even when you had outgeared it completely, you could still wipe on it. I mean, when we've done Il'gynoth even relatively recently during Nighthold and still wiped on it, because if you don't do the mechanics, you will wipe on it, doesn't matter how good your gear is. Especially if you can't one-phase inside. Once you can one-phase inside, I suppose, then you get away with it a lot more. And then Sargeras was the only decent fight at the time in the whole place. So, yeah, Emerald Nightmare was... I mean, you know, in a way it was all right for a first one. Although Xavier shouldn't have been as straightforward as he was. That was a bit of a cock-up. So that's how I would rank it at the moment. I would just say Nighthold, to Trial of Valor, Tomb of Sargeras, and Emerald Nightmare in last place. The other problem Emerald Nightmare created is it may be for people who, and there were a lot of people who did this, for whom Legion was their first experience of organised raiding. Maybe they'd done LFI in the past, maybe they hadn't, but this was the first time they were doing that, because I remember we had a lot of issues during Emerald Nightmare with like Warcraft logs. Not always, you know, often it would crash, the servers would crash and things like that. And I remember tweeting Kira, who does those, who's the one who creates and maintains them, and asking, is it just, do you think it's just more people raiding, or is it just more people using Warcraft logs? And he said it's more people raiding. So there were a lot more, so Legion brought a lot more people into raiding. And for Emerald Nightmare to be their first experience, they might have thought, oh, this is Mythic raiding then, is it? Oh, this doesn't seem too bad. And then you go to Trial of Valor, where it's a bit harder. And then you go to Nighthold, and these were the guilds, as I say, that probably got through the first 3 and then didn't know what was going on. It's like, what the hell? In a way that maybe, you know, Emerald Nightmare was not really... It should have had a proper ramp up and actually been genuinely difficult at the end. Anyway. I'm probably not going to have a good last few days, because it's a bit like... I mean, the last few days at the end of an academic year are very much like the last half hour on a Friday. It can't go by quickly enough. So, especially as you think what I'm doing. So tomorrow my main job is basically tidying up my lab, filing stuff away, getting it all ready for next year. So that's tidying. I don't like tidying. Has to be done. And I've also got to design a few bits of a few documents so that I can show to people who will be using them. Then I can put finishing touches over summer. Thursday, we've actually got students in who are going to be joining us in September. But that means me doing a load of sessions all day on Thursday. Which may or may not be good. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And then Fridays, we're just going in for the morning, really. Then it's staff barbecue in the afternoon and bugger off. So I shall just be counting the hours, really. How many hours is it? What are we on Tuesday? So what have we got? About 68 hours to go. And then I should be good. But anyway, I will call it there. Thanks for coming on. As I say, if I am sort of streaming as well, even though when the offline screen comes up, it sort of says, oh, it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. There will be 2 for Saturday. I need to update it, actually. As soon as I go off here, I need to update it, because there's the live rec Q&A. So on Saturday afternoon, there'll be the normal one where I just do something. It may not be PTR. If they're not going to add anything to the PTR, I've pretty much exhausted that, so there's no point in doing that. It may just be some casual gameplay on something. I don't know what. But Saturday evening will be the live rec Q&A. So it's rec week. And... but I have taken to streaming when we've done raids as well, just not advertising it. So if you follow me, as I've seen a few people have today, that should sort of notify you. The reason I don't sort of advertise those ones is because, just like yesterday, there's no guarantee I would be in those raids. I may be sat out. So I tend not to sort of say, well, definitely raiding on that, because I don't know what I would be doing. But I'd be on and I'd be streaming to at least chat if you want. So anyway, and also obviously if it's progress and I am in, I'm not going to be paying a lot of attention to the chats because I've got other things to focus on, like not catching glaives in the face. But anyway, thanks for coming, and I shall see you later. Bye bye.